Well, I can see in my absence, you and Stanley have been having some fun doing some math, answering Hannah's question. Um, that child was relentless. Why? Why? She just wanted to know, why does this work? And we'll talk about that at another time. But I'm so glad that you got to spend that time with Stanley. And doesn't he have an incredibly orderly, beautiful way of laying out a math lesson? I don't know anyone who can do it just like he does. My wonderful Stanley, just such a great math teacher. But today is going to be story time. So if you would like to go get some hot tea or hot cocoa and come enjoy story time, this would be a good time for that. A few months ago, I found on Instagram, and I've shared with you that I am new to Instagram. I've been doing it for a year now, and I'm so glad because this ad came through for something called the Virtual Math Summit, and underneath that was Building Mathematical Minds. Oh, that caught my attention, and especially because the keynote speaker was Peter Liljedahl, so that really caught my attention. But I didn't tell you about it, and I'm regretting now that I didn't. You know how it is when you have not attended something, you're always a little hesitant, or I am, to recommend it. But definitely next year when this comes around, I will be letting you know so that we can all watch it together if you would like. The presenters and workshops were outstanding. And so I'm going to be sharing the story told by Jay Brown. On Instagram, her... is it called address? I don't know what you call it. It's called joyful.math. And her workshop was called Increasing Student Achievement in Math Through Building Self-Efficacy. And I've heard the word efficacy. I've read John Hattie's book. I know that I sort of know what it is a little bit, but I had to actually look it up to remind myself. And here's a very basic definition. How you feel about your ability to perform in areas that are important to you. And Jay has unlocked the one thing that helps our students with self-efficacy, and I can't wait to share it with you. And I want to thank Jay Brown for her willingness to let me share her story with you. I got her permission to do that, and thank you so much, Jay, because I think it's a story that needs to be heard. So Jay had been an elementary math teacher for, I think, 13 years, and now she's a K-5 math coach. But she said in her district at the beginning of the year, they would always have these meetings. They were called goal-setting meetings. And listen to the goals that they were expected to achieve. More than 70 to 90% will be able to perform at or above grade level by the end of the year. And Jay was, why aren't we measuring growth? Why do we have this unrealistic expectation? And I couldn't agree more. It's all about growth with our students. She says something very vulnerable. I was so appreciative that she shared this, that she said, am I the only one that has cried at these meetings? You know, it's so discouraging that it made her cry. I definitely would be crying right alongside with her. And she said that it caused her, these goals have actually caused her to do damage to students. And that's another thing I appreciated her sharing, because I know I can get very emotional when I think about the damage that I have done to students because of mistakes that I have made and things that I did not know. She said it caused her to have a mindset that was damaging even, that I am the teacher, I am the one with the content, and you are the one who needs to learn it. Every year at her school, she would hear about this one group of students. You know, the teachers would talk about them as being the lowest group that they had ever taught. And as it got closer and closer to her, she kept getting more and more anxious until it was her turn to have this group next. And they would tell the horror stories about their low performance. their behavior problems, their traumas and mental issues, their learning disabilities, diagnosed and undiagnosed. And when it came time for her to have this group the next year, she did what I think many of us would have thought to do. She put in for a transfer to a different school within her district. But she spent that summer deep in worry and study because she knew there was a chance that she would not get transferred. And so she studied on differentiation because she needed to have some kind of plan for how to help these students. And it was during this time of deep worry and study. She didn't say that she prayed, but I know she did, because she felt very impressed that God told her that what she needed to give these students was something that they had never been given before: love. It came time for the school year to begin, and they had their big meeting, and instead of looking at all the data, she decided to ignore the data, because she asked herself, why would I set goals and expectations for a group of students that I have not even yet met? The year began, and all the stories were true. They were incredibly low performing, math anxiety everywhere. One of her little girls in 5th grade didn't even have the ability to do the +1 concept. They couldn't do basic computations. But Jay set out determined to spend that year loving those students. And at the end of the year, after state testing, she received a phone call from the admin because they could not believe how high her scores were, how much growth her students had made. Her scores were so strong that it carried the whole school. Her husband was at some meeting some weeks later, and they approached him and said, "You have to tell your wife. We're just so grateful. We can't believe what she accomplished with those students." And Jay says, "I know that I could have never had those results had I not showered those students with love." What a beautiful reminder of what we need to have first and foremost. So, standards, back off. Lesson plans, pipe down. Grading programs and entering grades and grades, relax. Because we have a mission. Our students need from us foremost and utmost. And thank you for the reminder, Jay, that what we need to shower our students with every day, when we walk into that classroom tomorrow, may we shower our students with love.